Our next artwork is by Polykleitos, and this is titled the Doryphoros, or Doryphoros, or Spear Bearer. In fact, the word Doryphoros is Greek and it translates to spear bearer. This is a Roman marble copy of the original bronze. Sadly, the original bronze is lost in time, but you can tell here this is a marble copy because of the supports, that tree trunk right there. This is often a nice tell. Whenever you go to a museum and you see a marble piece like this with these types of what art historians call tree trunks, oftentimes they're carved to look like tree trunks. The marble statues need that additional support, right? Because they're not the bronze original. A good kind of tell is that tree trunk, and whenever you go to a museum, you can bring your family, and as you walk up to artwork, if you see a tree trunk, you could be like, oh, this is a copy of a bronze original. And then they'll look at the caption and they'll be like, bronze original? How did she know? Oh my God, she's so smart. It must have been that one art history class with Miss Cortez. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting distracted. Okay, so the artist is Polykleitos, and the artwork is the Doryphoros, or spear bearer. We call him that because we believe that he originally had a spear resting over his left shoulder, like that. So here, this is a bronze reconstruction of what we believe him to have been. This specific copy was carved and placed in a Roman gymnasium. What? Yes, okay, I put this here because I told you that the Romans, they love these copies of these famous Greek sculptures. This one was put in a gym in the Roman city of Pompeii in Italy. And I've given you the definition of gymnasium. So we call them gyms for short, but their word gymnasium, it's literally translates to place to get naked. Huh? Yeah, in the Greek world and in the Roman world, it was not unusual to want to work out. Well, for the Greeks, it was the expression of your dedication to the people and the gods, right? And to work out, well, you don't need to wear any clothes. So gymnasium, you get naked and you start working out. We have other artwork examples of gymnasiums. This is a Greek vase showing some young men stretching, working, doing weights. This is the entire painted frieze of that one here. These guys are boxing. This guy's waiting his turn. These guys are doing some free weights. All right, cool. So why is this statue at a gymnasium? Well, check out his bod. I mean, that takes some time. That takes some dedication. That takes some skill. These are like hashtag goals, right? Yeah, right? So guys, you're working out. Ladies, remember, you don't work out. You stay home and have babies. Guys, you're working out and you're like, oh, I want my pecs to be just as big as that guy. Oh. So he's there to be an ideal, a goal for you. He's like the cover of Men's Health magazine, right? Okay, so he stands here, and I don't know who this young woman is. I got this offline, but she's pretty fantastic, and she helps me give you a sense of scale. He stands at 6 feet 11 inches tall. He's massive, I know. Let's look at his posture, or his pose. What is the name of the pose in which he stands? Counterbalancing his hips. That's it, yes. Contrapposto. So we see here he stands in that counterbalance. But let's also remember what we talked about with balance when we were looking at the temple of Aphaea in the Arcadian period. The archaic period. Remember we were talking about the archaic period temple, the temple of Aphaea? We're talking about the naos needs to be balanced with a pronaos and an epinaos. that balance is harmony and harmony is perfection, this figure, just like the Kritios boy, just like the Riechi warrior, they stand in contrapposto, counterbalance. To stand in counterbalance in contrapposto is a visual representation of the physical balance and the mental balance of the figure. So I need you to write this down, okay? Contrapposto equals balance of mind and body. Did you write that down? Balance of mind and body. Now I'm introducing you to that concept of a balanced mind with this piece because think about it. Think about not just how he stands. Don't notice just how he stands in contrapposto, but think about the time it took to make that body look the way it does. Is that an easy body to get? No. Does that take a lot of discipline? A lot of control? A lot of focus? Yes. That is a balanced mind and a balanced body. The body is a reflection of the mind. That is how the Greeks would have read this figure. That the time and dedication to creating or sculpting this musculature and controlling yourself in this contrapposto is an expression of a balanced mind, a mind that is not too hot-headed or too intellectual or too negative or too positive. Instead, you are of equal temperament, and that is expressed physically. This physical expression of balance is therefore perfection. That's why it's at a gym. That's the perfect body. If I get that perfect body, I'm going to have a perfect mind as well. It takes that time and dedication for my body to get there with my mind. Does that make sense? I wish we were in class together. Then I could see your heads going, or, no, I don't get it. I wish we could be, but we aren't. Let's look at this slide here. Because while we call him the spear bearer, his original name was Canon. And this goes back to him being a form of perfection, an example. Polykleitos titled his original bronze work Canon, which means standard or rule. It's a unit of measure. Notice the spelling here of cannon. Cannon with two N's is like the thing that you fire cannonballs with. Cannon with one N is a standard or rule, a unit of measure. And Polykleitos, he sculpted the original figure and included with it a book he wrote. And the book was discussing the physical expression of symmetria. What, Miss Cortez? I'm so confused. Okay, let's read this slide together. Originally titled Canon, which means standard or rule, a unit of measure. He, this guy here, the Doryphoros, is a physical expression of symmetria. Symmetria means a measure or a balance of opposites. Do you see where I'm going here? An expression of harmony and balance. At this time, during the High Classical period, we see a larger discussion among Greek men of this pursuit to understand the natural world, and with that, some measures of order and balance. That is referred to as symmetria. If you've ever taken a music class and you've had to learn your scales and to write out music, you've had to deal with symmetria. In math, the symmetry, the balance of opposites, this is all happening at the same time that Polykleitos is sculpting the Doryphoros, because what he wants to do is have a visual, physical expression of symmetria. Here's a drawing of the Doryphoros with those proportions, those measures, to help you understand the physical expression of symmetria in the proportions of his body. What we are measuring here are the proportions, or the pieces, from his navel to his neck, his navel to his groin to his knee to his ankle, his shoulder to his elbow, all of these elements, and they all have specific relationships to each other. Sadly, the book that Polykleitos wrote is gone. So what we can understand about the Doryphoros is only what we can still see in the copies of the figure. We're not quite sure what Polykleitos' magical number for the symmetry of the figure was, but what we're supposed to understand is that this is the physical expression of the perfect man, the perfect physical and mental expressions of a man. And then the measurements, well, like I said, there are relationships between his neck and navel and groin and knees and ankles and shoulders and elbows, and they all are in relationship, but they can go down to smaller minutiae, like, well, I'm holding up here, because what art historians think is that the base unit of measurement for the Doryphoros is the middle knuckle of the pinky finger. We believe that that is why it's exaggerated or stands out as he holds the spear. And what we have found is that there is a correlation between the length of the middle knuckle to the length of the hand, the forearm, the arm, the breadth of his chest, from his chest to his navel, from his navel to his groin, from his groin to his knee, from his knee to an ankle. Do you see how they all kind of interconnect? And so here in Polykleitos' Doryphoros, or spear bearer, we're supposed to be visually understanding physical and mental perfection. It is a canon, a standard, a unit of measure that we will all men will then need to hold themselves to. Whoa! I know. Another form of proportion that I want you to look at this figure isn't just that little middle pinky, but the ratio that he stands in. The ratio he stands in is a 1:7, meaning it's one head 7 times. So his head height to the rest of his body, it takes 7 heads to make his body. This will come into play fairly soon as we see the canon of proportions change. If you're an illustrator and you've had to do any kind of figure drawings, you've also heard of this kind of head ratio. So here we are looking at a 1:7 head-body ratio. Here he is from the side, and I like this view because it helps us understand not only the contrapposto, but look at that activation of space. Look at how his leg doesn't just bend, but it is pulled backwards. So he's in this twist. So he's activating the space in front of him and behind him and on either side of him. The proportions of his physical perfection are even related to his facial features. And remember, this is a marble copy of the bronze original. So the bronze original would have had that bronze luster skin, and it would have had inlaid eyes. Most likely it would have had some copper pink lips. It would have been a very, very different experience than this very cold, pale white marble.